Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I am sharing with you how to crochet the Slouchy slipper boot. This pattern creates a really cozy boot that's going to keep your feet warm on those colder days. Now before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so you never miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials again. The bottom part of this pattern is made using my adult sized soles. You're going to need 4 soles, all of the same size, to create the bottom half of this pattern. You can find a link in the description box and there should be a card here for you to take you straight to the playlist to go and make your soles. I have 2 here that are both the same size, and these are the UK adult size 5 to 6, 7 to 8 in US size, or 38 to 39 in the European sizes. Let's find out the other materials we need to make our slippers. I'm making these in a slightly different colour to when I made them originally for the photos. So I'm going to be using, as you can see from my soles here, I have PaintBox Yarns Simply Chunky. Now this is a size 5 or bulky weight yarn, and it's 100% acrylic simply because it makes it easy care and you can just throw them in the washing machine. I'm going to be using shades Dusky Lilac, which is shade number 346, along with Paper White, and I've got, I think this is Ballet Pink, which is shade number 352. So once you've decided your yarn colours for your soles, you need 2 colours for your sole, and then I'm going to stripe mine throughout the rest of the pattern as well. I'm working with a 6mm crochet hook. This is my Furls Peppermint Swirl, and I've got a pair of scissors for when I change colours. And you're going to need a stitch marker because the heel are worked in a continuous round, so a spiral, which means we don't slip stitch to join. There's no chaining either. So it just helps to keep mark of the first stitch of our rounds. So make sure that you've got your soles all done and dusted because we're going to start by joining them together. So colour wise, I am going to be placing my lighter colour as the inner of my sole and making the darker colour as the outside, because nobody's floors are perfect and it just means that most of the dirt won't show up. So the first thing we're going to do is put our soles together, putting the insides or the wrong side of each of the soles together and matching those up. Now you should still have your joined stitch marked. If you haven't, just look for where you joined that final round. The stitch markers should be 4 stitches apart. So if we count, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where that stitch marker needs to go, and that takes us back 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be joining with the inside of our sole looking at us, and we're going to join through that last joined stitch, working through both sides of the sole. So I'm going to remove this stitch marker. So I'm just going to insert my hook where that stitch marker was, and in the opposite side, so 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm just going to pick up the front loop of the bottom sole because that's going to allow it to look really neat. So just join through that front loop facing you before you join your yarn, because that's going to give you a really neat edge. Just going to place my yarn over my hook with the tail furthest away from me, of course leaving enough to weave in later, and you should have the larger end of your sole at the bottom of your project here. So once you're ready to, and you've got your yarn, bring that through those stitches, and then we are going to chain 1 just to secure. Make sure that's nice and tight. So you should have your back loop still of that stitch. So we're going to be working through just the front loop of our back sole. So I'm going to reinsert my hook into where we did that chain 1 and insert back again through that front loop only to work our first single crochet. So we just yarn over and pull back through, and then we yarn over and pull through 2, and we're going to repeat this for each stitch around. So we're going through both loops of the top sole, move that tail out the way for a moment, and then just through the back loop of that back sole. So we just pick, sorry, the front loop. So just picking up that front loop, yarning over, bringing our hook back through, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're going to repeat this all the way around. We're not increasing, we're just joining these soles and all these stitches together, working through both loops of the top sole and just the front loop of the bottom sole. I should now have reached my stitch marker. Yep, I'm just going to remove that one. just through that front loop of the next stitch. And we're going to continue to repeat this all the way around. So work your 1 single crochet through both loops of your top sole and just the front loop of your back sole, and I'll meet you back round once you've worked all the way around back to the beginning. So once you've completed all of your single crochets all the way around, we're going to join round 1 by slip stitching to that first single crochet that we made. Once you've done your slip stitch going into round 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our slipper. So you should now see the bottom of your sole facing you. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, including that first one we did our join in. So continue to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, and I'll meet you at the end of round 2. So at the end of round 2, we're going to join to that first single crochet that we made of the round and slip stitch to join. And then we are ready to fasten off. There's one final thing we're going to do, which is to mark where we're going to join to begin our slipper upper. Just fasten off this yarn. Making sure I've left enough to weave in. So counting round from where you fastened off and in the direction that you normally crochet, make sure you have the bottom of your sole facing you. If you're making an adult size 3 to 4, US 5 to 6, European 35 to 37, you need to place a marker in the 34th stitch. If you're making a UK 5 to 6, US 7 to 8, European 38 to 39, we're going to be marking the 37th stitch. And then if you're doing a UK size 7 to 8, US 9 to 10, European 40 to 42, you're marking the 40th stitch. Finally, if you're making a UK 9 to 10, a US 11 to 12, European 43 to 44, you're going to be marking the 42nd stitch. So we're beginning from counting where we've joined and working in the direction that we crochet as if we're working in the round. So 1, 2, 3, and 37. So I'm going to pop my stitch marker in there, and then I know exactly where I'm going to be joining my yarn for the slipper upper. So once you have your stitch marked, this is where we're going to be joining with the inside of our sole facing us. And then we're going to insert our hook. I always take my marker out and put my hook straight through, and I'm rejoining with my pink again, so colour C, the yarn over the hook, and I'm continuing with the colour of my sole. You don't have to, of course, you can do whatever you like. And then we're just going to make a chain 1 to secure. We're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 11 stitches. So starting in the same as our chain 1, we're going to reinsert our hook, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. I'm going to weave this tail as I go. So that was number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, get rid of my tail now, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So you should have a nice little ridge over the top here, which is on the wrong side facing out, which makes our next row the right side. So we're going to turn because we're working in turned rows. So we're not working a turning chain here. We're going straight into that stitch and working 1 single crochet. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. we should have one stitch remaining on this row, and we're going to work into this stitch and into this stitch by working a decrease that's not really a decrease. If you've worked a turned heel, it's a similar technique to that. We're attaching our toe to the sole of our shoe by using short rows. So we insert our hook into the next stitch, or the last stitch of our last row, yarn over, bring a loop up, and then we're inserting our hook into the next stitch of the sole of our foot, yarning over, bringing up a third loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. I'm going to tighten that a little bit, and that completes row 2. So your stitch count should still be 11 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Now, if like me, you're going to be changing colour every 2 rows to create a really cute striped look, we're going to have to redo this stitch so that our colour changes look really neat. So I'm just going to pull back on that last stitch, pop that loop back on my hook and get ready with my next colour. I'm just going to work that final stitch again. So we insert, yarn over, bring our loop up, and insert, yarn over, bring our loop up, and we're stopping there, ready to change colour. And I'm just going to pop that over my hook and finish that single crochet 2 together with my new colour. So if you're also changing colour, that's how you do it. Now again, we're going to now, ooh, this is where it gets a little bit messy. I'm going to make sure that's a really tight, that other colour, and you can't quite see it on the camera that well, before we turn our work. So for rows 3 and 4, we're going to repeat row 2, exactly as we've just done. So there's no turning chain to secure that colour change. So we just have to work carefully, working that first single crochet into the same as into that last stitch. I'm going to work over my colour changed end at the same time. So I'm going to yarn over and bring a loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. Now where we've changed colour, I'm just going to leave that out of the way, because we're going to need that colour again, and I don't like to weave end ends, so I'm going to carry that as we go. So that was our first single crochet. We then need to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to move that tail out of the way before I work number 9. And then, just like we did at the end of the last row, we're going to work a single crochet 2 together across the last stitch and the next stitch, which is a bit harder to determine. You see how something's coming out of there? So it's actually the next stitch along we need to work into. So we're going to work a single crochet 2 together into the last and the next stitch. Now it's important we don't work into this stitch where this is coming out of, because that stitch has already been worked. We need to go over to the next one. So I'm going to insert my hook underneath the last stitch, wherever that has gone. It's a bit tight because there was no turning chain. So we yarn over and bring our loop up and double check that we're going into that next stitch that's not worked. There's nothing coming out of it, so it's this one here for me. So I'm ignoring that one where I've worked and going into this one, bringing up a third loop before yarning over and pulling through all 3. I'm going to try and get that as tight as I can. There we go. I just tightened it so that that stitch becomes nice and small. We're not going to work into that again. We're going to come back in under that stitch. So if this is nice and tight, it'll keep your toe nice and tight as well. So we're then ready to work row 4, and we're continuing in this colour to do our second row, and we're inserting straight under that stitch we've just worked to work our first single crochet. Once again, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches, and then that final stitch where we're working that single crochet 2 together onto the last and the sole, we're going to be changing colours again. So we're going to work that last stitch together. Work 1 single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches, and I'll meet you at the last stitch. Just working my 9th stitch, and we're ready to change colours again. You see how that looks like it's coming off. When I tighten or pull against that previous colour, it just closes that gap there. Not the best angle. You see it just closes that one. So we're going to work this final stitch together, and I'm changing colour. This time I'm going to change back to, if I can get the end, back to my colour B. I'm assuming that must have been in the list, but I've lost track now. So I'm inserting my hook under the next stitch, yarning over to bring a loop up, next and last I should say, and you can see where that colour changes, so that means I've worked into that stitch. So it's this one all the way over here, and then insert my hook under that next stitch of the sole before I yarn over, bring my loop up and grab my next colour. And once again I'm just going to place that with the tail at the end, with the tail away from me, before I pull through the remaining 3 loops. Oops, there we go. I pull tightly down on the cream colour. It will bring that stitch down. When I come back to colour changing again, it will bring it back down. And then we are ready to continue once again working these 2 rows as we've done before. So we're just repeating row 2 all the time. So remembering that there's no turning chain. I'm going to leave this loose for now. I can sort that out later. I'm going to work my next single crochet, and that will help secure that colour change. Flip it back and I can pull tight and show you what we're aiming for, because we want it to be nice and tight. And you can see that our toe is starting to form, and each time we come back working into that next stitch, it's just bringing that toe over, but from the inside you've got lots of lovely space to hide your toes. If you want to keep ahead of your ends, you can either weave them in here or do them once we've finished this section. We're going to repeat this row 2 where we work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the next 9, and then we work that decrease stitch across the last and the next on the sole for a certain number of rows, depending on which size that you're making. Obviously some people, the bigger the foot, the bigger the toe section needs to be. The stitch count is going to remain at 11 single crochets in each row, and remembering there's no turning chain. There's me having my toe facing the wrong way. So there you go, that looks a bit better. I did wonder why my sole wasn't acting like it should. So I'm going to run through, depending on which size you're making, as to how many rows you're making with row 2. We've already done row 1 and row 2. And these, my cream rows here is row 3 and 4. And if you're making size UK size 3 to 4, US adult 5 to 6, European 35 to 37, you're going to repeat row 2 all the way up to row 18. For the UK size 5 to 6, US 7 to 8, European size 38 to 39, we're going to be doing a total of 22 rows. UK adult size 7 to 8, US 9 to 10, European 40 to 42. You're going to be doing a total row count of 24. And then for sizes 9 to 10, which is a US 11 to 12, European 43 to 44, you're doing a total of 26 rows. So continue to repeat row 2 for the number of rows that you need, and I will meet you at the end of your final row, ready to fasten off, weave in, and then we're going to repeat this for our second sole. So once you've worked your final row, so I have my 22 rows, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 and 2. You have the rest of the sole left unworked, but we are going to fasten off to weave in our ends. I've already fastened off the other colours. I'm just going to make a little chain 1 to secure. Grab my scissors and snip, and we are ready to weave in all of these ends. I've got my ends inside here I need to weave off before we carry on with the rest of the heel and the rest of the upper. So weave in all of those ends and I'll meet you back in a moment. So moving on to the heel and our ankle pattern, we're going to work in continuous rounds now, and we start by joining into the second stitch of our slipper upper, the bit we've just added, our toe if you will. So you want the right side of your slipper facing you, so you can see your border on your sole and your toe is at the bottom, and we're joining in the second stitch of our slipper upper. Just going to insert my hook through that stitch, and I'm going in with my colour C, which is this dark purple. So I'm just going to place that over the hook with the tail at the back and bring that through. I'm going to make a little chain 1 just to join. That does not count as a stitch. I'm we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into the same as our chain 1. So that's 1. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, I've woven that end in as I've gone, nicely on the inside. So that's all neat. Make sure I can still see my first single crochet. And then we're going to work a single crochet 3 together. So we're going to be working into the last stitch and the next 2 stitches of our sole. So we're going to insert our hook into that last stitch, yarn over, bring a loop up. We're skipping where we've already worked and inserting our hook into the next stitch on the sole. Bring up a 3rd loop, and again we're inserting into the next stitch again, yarn over, bring up a 4th loop, yarn over, and pull through all 4 loops. And that's going to bring us upper down to our sole, and we're losing a stitch as well. We're then going to work 1/2 double crochet into each of the next 12 stitches. We're then going to work 1/2 double crochet into each of the next 12 stitches if you're making a 3 to 4, US 5 to 6, European 35 to 37, or 14 stitches if you're making a 5 to 6, US 7 to 8, which is a European 38 to 39. Then if you're making a size 7 to 8, which is a US 9 to 10, European 40 to 42, then you're going to be needing to make 15 half double crochets. And then finally, if you're making a size 9 to 10, US 11 to 12, European 43 to 44, you're going to be doing 16 half double crochets. So make your half double crochets and I will meet you in a moment. So once you've worked those half double crochets, we're going to be working a decrease stitch. Now, to make sure that you've got the right placement for your decrease stitch, say for instance you've adjusted the number of rows to make the opening a little bit wider, then what you're going to need to do is to find your center chain from your sole and go up to that middle stitch, and you should be 2 stitches away from that middle stitch, because we're going to work a half double crochet 2 together. So we yarn over the hook and insert, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. We yarn over the hook and reinsert into the next stitch by yarning over, bring a loop up. We then yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Once we've worked that decrease stitch, we're going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches before we work another half double crochet 2 together. So we yarn over and insert, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops. We yarn over to insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over to bring our loop up before we yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 12, 14, 15 or 16 stitches, depending on the size that you are making. I'm giving them in size order, so the 12 relates to the smallest size, the 16 relates to the biggest. Work your half double crochets and you should end 1 stitch with 1 stitch remaining on your sole. Just working my final half double crochet, and I have 1 stitch remaining on my sole and the empty stitch here. So this is going to mark the end of round 1 and working in continuous rounds. So we're going to start straight into round 2 of our heel and ankle upper by working a single crochet 3 together. So we're going to insert our hook into that final stitch of our sole, yarn over, bring a loop up, and then we're going to insert our hook into the unworked stitch of our slipper upper, bring up a 3rd loop before we insert our hook into the first stitch in our colour change, yarn over, bring a 4th loop up, and we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. Remember that you've already worked into this for that decrease, so it's actually here that we're working. So that was number 1. I'm going to place my stitch marker into my first stitch, which was where we just decreased. So we can keep an eye on where that is. And then so that was we're working these 7 single crochets, so that was number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And we're then going to work a half double crochet 3 together. We're working them over the next 3 stitches. So in our final stitch of our upper, where we did our decrease before, and again into that first stitch on our sole. So we start by yarning over the hook, we insert the hook, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over and just pull through those first 2 loops. We yarn over the hook and we're inserting into our next stitch, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and finally we yarn over the hook, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, bring a loop up, and we're going to pull through all 5 loops on our hook. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into the next 11, 13, 14 or 15 stitches. So work your half double crochets around and I'll meet you, because then we're going to be decreasing again. So if you've made adjustments and you're not sure that you're placing these half double crochet 2 togethers in the right place, again you can use your center point of your sole to come up, and we're looking for the stitch that's in the center, and we need 3 stitches either side of your center point to work these decreases. So we're yarning over, insert, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and insert again, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. That's number 3, before we work a decrease again. So we yarn over and insert, yarn over, bring our loop up, just pull through those first 2 loops, we yarn over and insert, yarn over, bring our loop up before we pull through all 4 loops. We're then going to be working 1 half double crochet into each stitch back down to the stitch before our marker, because we're going to work our final decrease using that as our middle stitch. So work 1 half double crochet into each down to the stitch before your stitch marker, and I will meet you there. So I'm just at the stitch before my stitch marker. I'm going to remove my stitch marker and work our final half double crochet 3 together, and we're working that across the next 3 stitches. If you're changing colour, you will need to change to your next colour during this stitch, ready for the next round. I'm going to get that ready, and let's work this final decrease together. So we yarn over and insert, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops, then we yarn over, insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over, bring our loop up, going to yarn over, pull through those next 2 loops again, and then finally we yarn over, insert our hook into the 3rd stitch, yarn over, bring our loop up before we pull through, yarn over, sorry, and pull through all 5 loops on our hook. And I still forgot to change colours, so I'm going to do that again with you. So we yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert into the next, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert our hook, bring our loop up, and then I can change colours. So I'm going to pop my colour over with my tail at the back and pull through slowly all of those loops. There we are. And this is the start of round 3. So from round 3 to 4, we're going to be working 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. And very simply, we are going to make sure that we've marked our first stitch. Let me make sure I've got my tail to work over. So we're just working 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. I've worked 2, going to pop my stitch marker in. It's a bit obvious on this round, but just good practice for me. I always forget to put my stitch marker in. So we're working 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. So we're working at 2 rounds in this colour, and then rounds 5 to 18, we're just going to be repeating round 3, changing colour every 2 rounds. Now it is completely up to you, as if by magic, ta-da! It's completely up to you how many rounds you do to complete your slouchy slipper boot. Here I've done 20 rounds to get it nice and tall, and I'm a bit short, so it comes up to about halfway up my calf. And you need probably 8 rounds to give just enough to come to the top of the ankle. But you can go as high as you like to really create a nice scrunch and create a nice cozy slipper boot. Once you've done all the rounds that you need and reached the height that you want, you simply fasten off, weave in any remaining ends, and of course you need to repeat all of this for your second slipper. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you again in the next video.